Altered Carbon, the art and making of the series, written by Abby Bernstein and released by Titan Publishing. As you may know, frequent viewers of my channel, I really do like to review and take a look at these art and making of books, specifically by Titan Publishing. They are one of the best when it comes to compiling these, and publishing these types of books. They are true coffee table reads. They're beautifully put together, and they are 9 times out of 10 gleaming with brand new bits of information. Now, in this review, I'm going to take a look at the intro to the book, take a few key bits of info which I find specifically interesting, and then just give my rounded opinion overall of the compilation. I will say first and foremost, go and check out the link down below in the description box to find Titan Publishing's, Titan Books, the page where you could, grab yourself one of these. I don't get anything for that, FYI. I'm just directing you to them. But I will say that the book itself is staggeringly beautiful. It really, really nicely compiled. You've got some really good artwork, but the book, as a physical structure, has some really nice embossing on the back. Something which we don't really tend to see too much of these days. And specifically, one thing I found very interesting about this book is it comes at a time when we've only had 2 seasons. So it implies to me that a 3rd season of Altered Carbon may actually not come, which would be a true shame. I'd really hope that we do get a season 3. I liked Altered Carbon 1, more so than I liked season 2, but I still really liked season 2. It's a very different world between the two of them. Altered Carbon Season 1 was much more cyberpunk, but due to the nature of going to a brand new planet, the cyberpunk kind of world we had on Season 1 is sort of diminished somewhat. But both seasons I thoroughly enjoyed anyway, in and unto themselves. Introduction. Stay young and live forever. The Netflix series Altered Carbon, produced by Skydance Television, is based on a trilogy of novels by English author Richard K. Morgan. The first book, published in 2002, shares its title and storyline with the first season of Altered Carbon. Executive producer James Middleton explains Season 2 employs a few key ideas and locations from Richard Morgan's Broken Angels, published in 2003, and Woken Furies, published in 2005. But it is not based on either book in the way Season 1 was based on the first book. Narratively, for Season 2, we wanted to focus on the love story in a way that the subsequent books do not. So, with Richard Morgan's help in the writer's room, we took elements from the saga and crafted a new Season 2 storyline. The Season 2 showrunner, Alison Shapka, states that they have taken creative license, but we have tried to stay true to the spirit of the universe that Richard Morgan created. The spirit itself is to call into question the nature of human identity itself. How much of what makes me me is tied to the mind and the body and or the soul. If minds can move between bodies, what residue of lived experience remains etched in our flesh? And what does it mean to inhabit the flesh of another? Now, the book on a whole is very, very in-depth. Straight from the outset, when you're looking at the introduction to this book, it goes point by point round through to detail every single part of this series. There are locations, there are people, there is technology, there's even vehicles, and right down to the set design and how they've managed to construct certain set pieces for the film itself. So part of the contents itself would be the elevator fight, for instance. Now, the elevator fight is a really interesting one to take a look at, because you can actually see on-set photos of them constructing a true set elevator piece, and obviously having the camera rigging above, all of the lighting, and just generally how they constructed that fight and choreographed it. It's really, really well done, and to see it from the outside perspective looking in is fantastic. Now, if you don't remember, the elevator fight was part of Season 1. Quite a big action piece, actually. It was where the Ghost Walker Liu Kang, I think the chap's name was. He died. It was in that scene anyway. Big action piece, really, really big action piece. So to see it pulled back and the curtain removed is really, really nice. And that's the theme of these books, is to see certain elements here and there which you just wouldn't normally have seen. Another really nice element of these books would be the commentary from each individual actor on their personal thoughts and feelings of the series and the characters that they play. One such would be Chris Connor, who of course plays Poe, and he sees Altered Carbon primarily about the struggle to be human, the fight to hold on to our better angels. If we don't fight our inner demons, we could end up in a dystopia, but love and humanity will hopefully crack through. Now, I personally really, really liked Joel Kinnaman in the role of Takeshi Kovacs, and this book has given me a greater appreciation for his acting ability. Little did I know, and again, something which I'm sure a lot of people will probably have a greater appreciation for now, is that he does a lot of his own stunts, and that's something which this book details. So the Season 1 stunt coordinator Larnell Stovall has stated how Kinnaman himself really loves trying to do all of his own action within what's safe. He definitely knows when to step back and when a stunt may seem too unsafe and allow his double to step in. But Joel goes all out, he's professional and always putting 100% into it. And of course, part and parcel of stunt coordination would be all of the VFX, because they are intertwined. And even the VFX supervisor Everett Burrell stated Joel Kinnaman, his patience and his tenacity, I admire that. We've done some complicated shots with Joel in terms of visual effects, and we'll get pretty close to perfection, and he'll look at me and goes, is it good? And I go, He goes, let's keep doing it until we get it right. He just won't stop. Now, of course, a lot of that could simply be PR spin. It's one of those things that, we hear about and people just laud up the actors such and such forth. But did you know that Joel Kinnaman actually broke his foot halfway through Season 1 production? Well, it details it here in the art and making of this series. The VFX supervisor Burrell stated that the one big one was Joel broke his foot halfway through production. He had this fiberglass boot that he had to wear until his foot healed, so there were times when I had to paint that boot out. Now, that not only goes to the set design, the production, and just how good they are at removing a giant fiberglass boot, but also the fact that Joel Kinnaman was so committed to the role. Now, Joel Kinnaman is an actor that I personally don't like in a lot of things, but he has owned the role of Takeshi Kovacs in Altered Carbon, and it gave me a really good new appreciation for him as an actor. Now, you may be asking yourself, why aren't we talking about Anthony Mackie? Well, this book was written during the production of Season 2. So the comments from actors and VFX supervisors, directors and such forth are much more limited by comparison to the anecdotal comments about Season 1, because this was written after Season 1's release. Now, like I said, this book not only details commentary from actors, directors, cast and crew, but it also breaks down key individual locations in the series. Now, one of these locations, which was a favourite for Season 1, it was a very important set piece, was Suntouch House. Now, to me, it was a beautiful set piece, a really key piece of almost, iconography, and lent itself fantastically well to the themes of the series. Now, the book itself states that Suntouch House is the home of the Bancroft family, the wealthiest residents in the elevated Arium enclave. Production designer Kerry Meyer describes it as a vintage deco building that sits on top of a 10,000-foot tall piece of sculpture. VFX supervisor Everett Burrell observes that Suntouch sums up Lawrence Bancroft's character. Suntouch is an ivory tower. Bancroft is literally above it all. The richest meth in the world. Rules don't apply to him, and he looks down on everybody. In terms of the design, Burrell adds that all the structures and the meth technology was very futuristic and high-tech. Suntouch had a lot of Gaudi inspiration from Spain, And there were some concrete structures that Carey liked that used this technique, developed by Frank Lloyd Wright, who would build weird shapes with a balloon. They would lay girders over the top and then pour concrete over the top of it, so it would have this unique organic shape. And once the concrete had set, they would deflate the balloon. The climactic confrontation between Kovacs, Ortega, and the Bancrofts takes place in Suntouch House. Director Peter Hoare recalls that the location was the interior of a building in downtown Vancouver. So we couldn't start shooting until 6 o'clock at night, and there was a bar next to it that wouldn't shut up. Whatever we wanted to pay them, they said no. They said we're staying. So the dialogue was completely ruined for the first 3 hours before they closed, which meant we had to re-record all of that. Now, also included in this book are shot-by-shot storyboards for the series. One in specific would be Season 1, Episode 7, Scene 13. Now, this is where Takashi comes into contact with Raylene once more, and it's a beautiful storyboard, very much in line with what we saw in this series. And you can see it here on the screen. It's a staggering piece of storyboarding. It works really, really well. And it just goes to show, obviously, storyboards are part and parcel of series and movies, and they're nothing new, but it's really nice to see the creative and the artistic nature behind each and every single part of this series. Now, like I said at the start of this review, this book is basically just labelled as Season 1 and Season 2, but it's interesting that it's come out and it says, you know, the art and making of this series. I really hope they do make a third season. I know, coming back from some of the comments on my Season 2 review, a lot of people are not on board for Season 2. In my eyes, it still fits the world perfectly. Yes, the tone has somewhat changed and the direction has somewhat changed. They're sort of focusing in on a love story a little bit more, and they have lost a lot of the cyberpunk elements. But to me, that's just a byproduct of the location change. They're on Harlan's world, whereas before they were on Earth. So, you know, I appreciate some of the comments coming through that, you know, a lot of people actually didn't really like it. But for me, I really enjoyed it, and it's a universe that I'd love to return to, whether it be back to the cyberpunk age or, again, continuing off into the sort of Harlan's world, bright and airy sort of nature that they had. I prefer, in fairness, to go back to the cyberpunk world, but hey-ho. So I hope that this book doesn't come at a time when they've basically wound it down and they're not going to return. But like I said, I'd encourage you guys to check this book out. It's a beautifully put together book, and if you're not on board for Season 2, don't worry, because it's actually primarily all about Season 1 in the book, and there's some really key, interesting bits of information which hopefully I've revealed and teased some of them to you. It's well put together, it's well worth checking out, and it's well worth just having on a coffee table. It's just a great coffee table piece. Now, the RRP for this in the UK is $24.99, I believe, looking at the back of this book. US and Canada is $34 and $45 respectively. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. I'm going to wrap up this video here. If you're new to my channel, please do hit subscribe. Stay up to date on the world of pop culture movie news by hitting the bell notification icon. Also, and just quickly straight off the bat, please do follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, because a lot of my videos are not being notified to you all, and some of them I share over there, so you should be kept up to date. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. We're Mr. Age. Take care.